between the three of you guys, since you have a consensus on Nier Automata, we can save that for the end.
Sure, yeah.
Hell yeah.
That works for me.
Just a heads up.
Because I know nothing about it.
Dean, you're the only one here who hasn't played the best game ever made.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's pretty good.
Believe me, Everest. Believe me, Gabe has told me on podcast and out of thing in real life just how good it is. So,
the thing about that podcast is that we recorded it twice because the first recording of it got corrupted.
Yeah, it got corrupted.
I have screamed at Dean about Nier Automata for 40 minutes on 2 separate occasions, not including the other times out of podcast that I've done that.
Yeah, if Gabe telling me twice, through a lot of screaming, that I should pick it up and play it, and I still haven't done that yet, so I feel so bad. And another friend is telling me to pick up Yakuza, and I'm like, oh god.
We're gonna talk about Yakuza?
Timeline for you.
Pleased to meet you.
Hi friends, welcome back to the InkGuild Podcast. My name's Dean, joined today by Gabe.
Hey.
And today we've actually got a couple special guests with us. We've got Everest and Morgan from the Soibois. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Everest. Sorry about that. Hi, I'm Everest.
And howdy, I'm Morgan.
Cool. So I realized that for our audience alone, it might be a little bit weird hearing 2 new voices, but I guess just to quickly preface, Everest and Morgan are part of the Soibois, which is, I guess, I'll hand it over to Morgan actually for him to explain it, because you're pretty much you came up with the idea, didn't you, or you had some help?
Yeah. So originally, how Soibois came to be is back in college, we had an assignment to make a podcast, and so I decided to. And it had to be hyper condensed, 5 minutes. So, we just made a podcast, uploaded the 5 minutes to YouTube. And one day I just decided, screw it, I want to just do Let's Plays and other videos with my friends. So I decided to form the channel, Soibois. And so for me specifically, I guess you could call me the showrunner of the channel.
You pretty much are.
Yeah, when I'm not busy with work and such, because I do work basically 7 days a week, I edit the videos and I upload them. Sometimes, if you noticed, I will edit meme videos, just if I feel like making something really quick.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, right now the channel is forming right now of Let's Plays. I do plan on working on some video essays later down in the future, because I actually do have some scripts written for some videos, so maybe expect that in the upcoming future.
Cool. So
if our track record shows, it'll probably come out in 3 years from this podcast being released.
I'll have my first child when you release your first video essay.
Yes, literally.
All right, so Everest, how did you come to join or how did you come to join Morgan's idea?
Well, I've been kind of I don't know, making YouTube videos is always in the back of my mind, pretty much since junior high. And I know in high school originally, I actually wanted to be like a YouTuber. That's what my desired occupation was for some reason. And slowly over the years, I kind of realized hey, that's probably not the best idea, but the idea of wanting to make videos is still in my head. And so when Morgan asked me to help him with that 5-minute podcast, I helped him out, and we had a lot of fun doing it. And when he mentioned, later down the line that he wanted to start making more videos for the channel, I was pretty much immediately on board, because I've making videos have always interested me as well, and I thought it'd be a great way to kind of hang out and play some games and just have a good time.
Mm-hmm. So I guess how has that all been for both of you right now? How has that been kind of starting a YouTube channel?
Right now it's kind of just a hobby at this point. I definitely want to be making more videos, but right now, besides having an artist who actually I commissioned for the Let's Play thumbnails at least, I'm gonna eventually run out of money, so again, I just want to just keep it on the side for now. and like work on it when I have free time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry, I just wanted to say it says a lot about our YouTube channel when our number one most viewed video is Iron Man saying the words Gungaga.
That's amazing.
yeah. I know, like, when we first started the channel, I started uploading videos back in, like, December or January. It was pretty poppin' because, like, Morgan was, like very motivated to edit, and we were pumping out videos, like, every week, every couple of days even, I think, at one point. And all of us were pretty much meeting up, like, every weekend to make videos, and that was nice. And then, like, COVID-19 and quarantine kind of, like, threw a wrench into everything because, like, we all
As
got
it
way more
did, yeah.
busy. We were all working more, doing more schoolwork. We couldn't, like... I'm a big stickler for, like, if you want to, like, record a Let's Play video, I'm a big stickler for, like, all being there in person, because I feel like there's just more energy there if that's, like if you're all there in person. So when quarantine hit, that wasn't really an option anymore.
That's
And
true,
because
yeah.
of that, our recording process completely...
Yeah, it definitely got dipped. I felt like, for sure, we had more energy with, like, okay, I don't know. There's no Soibois super fans out there, but if you notice in our Danganronpa H2O, like the first session, parts 1 to 3, and our Yomawari videos, you can notice that we definitely are we're more lively and energetic. And once you see the later parts of TP, where it's probably going to be like parts 4 or 5 when we get down there, where a lot of the energy is definitely not there. You could definitely see that even with the first 2 parts of Twilight Princess, where a lot of it is just Chris talking, because I'm not the biggest fan of Twilight Princess. I personally think it's a little overrated, so it's a lot of me being contrarian with that game, Chris telling me I'm wrong while trying to carry on commentary, with Ben in the background once in a while making like a little observation. So that's definitely a problem.
Quarantine just kind of threw a big wrench.
Yeah. Well, see, it's funny, yeah, like it certainly has thrown a big wrench for, I guess, for a lot of people, and me included. But actually, like, I think were it not for quarantine, at least this podcast that I've started, it probably wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
And I say that because and Gabe's, you know, probably heard the story a million times already, so he can mute if he wants to, if he doesn't want to hear me speak it again. But like, so how so I guess like back in like March, before quarantine even happened, I started hanging out really at Gabe's creative writing class, because I had other friends in that same class, but by definition I wasn't part of the class to begin with. Like, I hadn't enrolled in that class, but it was a class I knew of. I knew the prof, and like we knew each other, and she really liked me, actually, which is, you know, I guess to our friends who are listening, not a flex. I'm just saying. I don't know. I really do care about creative writing, right? So I guess she saw that, and she's like, oh, that's cool. So come quarantine, I guess it had all, I guess the world had basically gone to shit at that point. But I guess one of the few things that really made it work was how I was able to join their Zoom meetings. And like, it was really nice of them, first of all, for me to like come in and, you know, engage with the class a little bit more. But after that, I think in the few days since I had started popping into those Zoom lectures, I was like, hey, wouldn't it be fun if like this class all kind of kept in touch and shared their own stories over the break or whatever? Because at the time, like, I think everyone knew that it wasn't going to go away by next month, right? Mm-hmm. So I created the Discord, and everyone started joining in, and, you know, just to be a little bit sappy, it was really nice for me to see that. Like, it was really nice seeing everyone. Oh God. Like, it was really nice seeing everyone like talk already, share their stories already. Like, it was really quick. It was really quick too. And so give or take a few weeks after that, Gabe and I were doing a call one night, and I guess funny enough, we were talking about Nier Automata that night, and I had the idea, and he shared it with me too. Like, how about we start a podcast? Like, how about we just start something where we talk, I guess, you know, about story or about storytelling, and about like storytelling in video games, and then eventually opening up like talking about creative writing in general, or like, you know, reading fantasy stories and whatever. So that's how we started our podcast, and that was through pretty much a whole series of unfortunate events that happened in the world, right? So yeah, like quarantine definitely sucks, but like I'm I'm also kind of appreciative of it. Like it's nice in a way that even though everyone suddenly got locked in, I was still able to make new friends. And that's just on me, right? Like I'm pretty sure everyone has had their own kind of interesting side stories. Like what were you gonna say, Everest?
I was just gonna say that like quarantine, there have been like good aspects to come out of quarantine, and there's been a lot of good stuff to come out of quarantine. I know, just like the abundance of free time has allowed a lot of people to, like, you know, work on a lot of stuff that they probably wouldn't have if quarantine didn't happen. Mm-hmm. So yeah, no, it's as much as it sucks, it's also kind of a blessing in disguise, I guess. I don't know. I can't think of better wording.
Yeah, like
sorry, I was just gonna say one final note. One thing I could think of positively about quarantine, it's getting me that bread, you know, unlike our YouTube channel that's not monetized.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like when it comes to YouTube channels, especially for, I guess, for all of us starting one, it's definitely difficult. Like I didn't expect, and I guess Gabe and I didn't really expect that we would gain 100 subscribers overnight when we uploaded the first episode, right? But
yeah, that's sweet.
He and I are having a lot of fun doing it, right? And he's been, I guess, the most consistent one that like joins me for these episodes. So thanks, Gabe. But yeah, it's like I feel like, you know, so many people say that you should definitely start doing YouTube. Like start it as a hobby. Don't expect it to be your job overnight, right? And that's how 100%. like that's how I've been treating it. Like I treat, you know, my editing, like I try to be fun with it. I want to talk about topics that, you know, I want to talk about, as well as like stuff that, you know, Gabe and I want to talk about, or Alex and I want to talk about. Like it's supposed to be fun, and it's supposed to be something that I guess in one way keeps us occupied, but also, you know, it's nice developing these skills, right? And I guess, yeah, so I always wanted to get your perspective on it, Gabe. Like how did you feel when we were starting the channel?
I was just like, yeah, it seems fun. I mean, I don't want to make it sound like I had a way simplistic view on it, but I felt like, yeah, it seems like a fun idea. Let's do it, boys.
Yeah. So in the few weeks that, you know, like I said, in the few weeks that we had kind of talked about the idea, our podcast was born. And so, yeah, so it's interesting that, you know, we have you guys who are doing a lot of Let's Plays and that stuff, and you have us where we are talking a lot about, you know, I guess storytelling and whatever. And I guess that's a nice segue into our topic tonight, which is video game stories. And like I've told you guys before, and I guess like our audience already knows, we already did an episode on that. Gabe and I talked about our 3 respective picks for our favorite video game stories. So I think I talked about the Call of Duty Black Ops campaign. I talked about The Last of Us, and I talked about God of War 2018. And then Gabe,
good games.
Yeah,
I talked about Nier Automata, Fallout New Vegas, and Pathologic.
Mm-hmm.
Also a great game.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I still have not played Pathologic.
Oh my god, you haven't played Pathologic?
All right. Well, we can get to all of that later, I guess, and just how, you know, Morgan has to play Pathologic. That's the title in the thumbnail right there. But like, yeah, I guess. So how we did that is we, I guess, kind of took turns explaining why this game was our favorite pick. You know, we focus primarily on, I guess, the plot line and the story of it, but, you know, if we wanted to incorporate like how the game plays and how it makes the story better, then we brought that up, right? And then also how, you know, we were looking at thematic meanings behind it, like how does this kind of open up the conversation towards like more as to why the story is so good, right? Not just as a video game, but like as a really good story overall. Right. So I think because Gabe and I already did our episode on that, we want to let you guys speak. So
sure.
I guess I'll pass it over to Everest first. So, dude, what would your first pick be for your favorite, for one of your many video game stories?
I'm wondering which one I should start with, because I got 3 separate picks. I guess I'll just start with probably the biggest one, which is my first pick being Persona 3.
Yes.
Don't worry, I'm also pogging off in the inside.
Yay!
Yeah, so-
Considering I've never played a Persona game in my life, but yay!
You really
I don't
should
want to be alone.
Really good. Like as someone who still like fairly recently got into the series and played them in a horrible order.
Yeah.
Persona 5, then Persona 3, then Persona 4. You can really hop into any game and like without any like setup on the ones before that.
Okay,
But
wait,
anyways,
sorry, just quick disclaimer. As the long-running SMT/Persona fan, you could just straight up skip Persona 1. Persona 1 is a bad game. And I'm on the crusade to spread the news of how bad that game is. It is not aged well.
You might
Sorry.
get flamed by like hardcore SMT fans for saying that.
I don't care. They know the game's bad.
But yeah, I wanted to talk about Persona 3 because it's easily, while it probably has the worst gameplay out of the Persona games to happen after Persona 2, because there's a very clear divide between Persona 1 and 2 and then 3 to 5. It definitely, in my opinion, has the best story. And so like, do I just like go into like the story, or like how do I start this off?
Well, first of all, I think we were talking about this really quickly, or maybe the 3 of you did. We are okay with spoilers here.
Okay,
like if you
yeah.
want to talk about like, you know, if you want to run through the story in like little sections or like talk about your favorite moments or whatever, then you can certainly do that. And you know, I'm sure that there will be a spoiler warning at the beginning already. So
Okay, cool. So the thing, first of all, that I really like just about like the Persona series, especially after like 3 to 5, is that Persona 3 to 5, they kind of like picked a color and then just decided to base the entire game off of that color. So like an easy example is Persona 5, where they picked red, obviously, and it ties into the entire themes of the game is about like rebellion and rage and turning against, you know, authority, and the red ties into all of that.
Oh, I've never noticed that before.
Yeah.
They're perfect for that.
And then Persona 4, they picked yellow, and yellow has to do with like happiness, like truth, and the whole game is about like seeking truth, even if it's not the truth that you're looking for, or the truth that you want. And then Persona 3 decided to go with a blue color palette, and blue represents like sadness, and you know that like it's a sad game. Persona 3 is a very sad game, and I really like it for that, and I really respect it for that, because especially if I remember correctly, after Persona 2, like the director for the series died, or like passed away or something, and so when they decided to make Persona 3, they needed to make like big changes to try and like make a big splash after the original creator passed away.
Well, I want to keep in mind as well, it's not just the director, that changed. It was the entire team.
Yeah.
Basically,
so-
Atlas gave up on Persona series, so they just gave it to a random B team that became the Persona team.
Damn.
Sorry.
And so with Persona 3, they decided like, we're going to make this game blue, we're going to make it sad, and it's going to be awesome. And so basically the story of Persona 3 goes that you are just a random teenager or a high school student that gets pretty much like drafted into this club at his new school, where they the club pretty much goes out and kills evil shadows that try to like kill humans. And so the game kind of sets up this idea where at the end of every day, once it hits midnight, there's actually an extra hour called the midnight hour, is it called?
Yes.
Or the dark hour?
Dark hour, midnight hour.
No, it's dark hour. It's dark hour, I think.
Midnight. The only thing that's midnight related is the midnight channel in Persona 4.
But so it's the dark hour, and so during this hour, normal people go like don't know it exists, but special people who have personas, which are essentially stands. To anyone familiar with JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, anybody who has a persona can stay awake during this dark hour, and they can fight off the shadows that are trying to like kill humans. And that's pretty much like the main setup for the game, is that you're just a teenager that's like part of this like squad that goes out and kills shadows. And the game runs on a calendar system, and at the end of every month, every full moon, like a huge bad shadow shows up, and then the team has to kill it. And these ramp up in difficulty as the year goes by. And I don't know how to like put the whole plot of Persona 3 into like a quick summary, but essentially it leads to like they're basically told that they need to kill all the shadows, but then once they do, they unleash the god of death.
Yeah, they release Nyx.
Man, if 2020 is anything to go by, that's our ending. That's how this year is over, man. Someone's been playing Persona 3.
Keep in mind that I'm trying to summarize like a 100-hour game into like 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But essentially, the plot of the game goes is that over the course of the year, you get like new team members that join the crew, and you're just exterminating shadows. Every full moon, you fight a big bad guy, and then eventually, when you kill the last one, the team accidentally unleashes the god of death, and the god of death essentially gives them a choice, where he says, either I can like the world is going to end in like a month, and either I can like make you guys forget your memories of everything that happened, and you guys will blissfully be unaware of the end of the world, and you can live the rest of your you can live the last month of your life in happiness. Or the other option is that you can choose to fight the god of death, and basically like which is an impossible fight, by the way. Like it's made up to be this impossible like big fight that you like the team will not be able to win. But he says you can choose to fight me and try and stop the end of the world, and if you do end up defeating me, like the world won't end. And then the team decides to fight the big bad guy, the big god of death, and they end up winning. But spoiler alert, it's at a cost where essentially the protagonist that you've been playing as has to sacrifice himself, essentially like kill himself in order to hold back the god of death from ever like coming to Earth and killing everybody. 100 hours. It feels like a gut. And it's and then that's like the main like plot of the story. But along with that, pretty much every single party member has to like goes through a character arc, because the big like theme of the whole story is death, and how the main theme of the story is basically like how people deal with death and how people like mourn over death and the loss of loved ones. And pretty much every single party member in the game, which there's like 10 of them, all through the course of the story go through their own like major like somebody they love died. Everybody has somebody they love died. And it kind of goes like into how every character individually deals with it, and then how the whole group together ends up like dealing with the loss of their loved ones as a whole, like together. And it's just it's awesome. It's again, I'm summarizing 100 hours of gameplay into like 5 minutes, but that's kind of like the gist of it.
Yeah, it sounds like a very emotional journey.
It is.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, there's a lot of like anime hijinks in between that, so it's not like it doesn't feel too taxing, but like that's like the main.
Mm-hmm. Morgan, you were saying?
I was just to add to that, like, you know, besides the theme of death and such, a lot of it's also just dealing with the inevitable, like something's going to happen. Like I want to throw, because a big feature in Persona games, specifically like 3 to 5, is you have things called social links or confidants, or it's Persona 5, where it's basically like a visual novel like friendship meter. And so one of the social links you could form in P3 is with this little girl who basically has to deal with the fact that her parents are getting divorced.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's also very memorable because, you know, like a visual novel, gives you options to say stuff. And every time you have a social link with that girl, you could basically just say, oh yeah, divorce is your fault, stop being a baby.
Yeah, you can be a real jerk in Persona 3.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But yeah, to tie into the social links too, every single like Persona game, like from 3 onward, has like one social link for each Arcana in the tarot deck, and every single one of the social links for each game always like ties into the main theme of the game. So yeah, like with Persona 3, it's like how to deal with death and like inevitability. And there's like, yeah, there's a social link where there's like the girl who's dealing with her parents getting a divorce. There's a social link with a guy who literally has a deathly disease and is slowly dying every time you meet him, and he's just trying to come to terms with that. There's a social link with like an old couple whose son passed away and their only memory of him is a tree, and there's a construction team is trying to take that tree down, and it's just them trying to deal with that. And you know, there's a lot of like really like, especially compared to the later Persona games where the social links get a lot more flashy, I still feel like there's a lot to appreciate from the simplicity and just kind of like the somberness of the original like Persona 3 social, because they do deal with some pretty like heavy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, unless you're gourmet fan.
Yeah, we don't talk about him.
Okay, so I just actually wanted to ask, so it sounds, yeah, so like I said, there seems to be a lot to it, and I think with what Gabe and I were talking about in our episode, is there, like, I guess what are the reasons really that it kind of stuck out to you in a way? Because I guess with any story, be it in a, you know, TV show, movie, book, video game, whatever, like obviously a lot of people are going to be feeling some particular way towards like the characters or like certain moments or whatever. So like, what were some of the things that kind of stuck out to you and made it such an impactful story that you're pretty much sharing it with us tonight?
Yeah. I think definitely one of the major factors is the characters. Because again, especially in Persona 3 compared to the later games, every character kind of gets to go through like a meaningful character arc that kind of like rounds out their character a lot. And you can feel that's like, especially at the beginning of the game, because all the main characters are like party members that you can have in your party, because it is an RPG at the end of the day. But it's nice. Again, this also ties into like how there's like a calendar system in the game where the game runs like literally every day. It runs through literally every day in the year, and like when these characters meet each other, they're all kind of like, they just kind of treat each other like coworkers, because that's pretty much what they are. Like they're just in a club together. They're like barely friends. They don't really know each other. They just all have personas and they kill shadows. And then you kind of like slowly get to see like as the game progresses, they kind of like form friendships and they become more of a team. And they use those friendships to like help each other out when those like hard hitting moments happen where characters die and like their loved ones pass away, stuff like that. And I definitely feel like the party members really like really like helped with my enjoyment of the game. I feel like if they weren't so well written, the game definitely wouldn't hit as hard as.
Yeah, I agree. I guess in previous episodes, I've talked about how I am a big character person. I think more so for like in, I guess like video game stories and fantasy stories in general, like it's really about the characters that kind of help move the plot along, because in a lot of fantasy stories, and obviously, you know, comments are open to dispute this, but with a lot of stories, they can be however many side characters, however many, you know, big magical plot points there is, but there's only really a few ways to really tell a story lately. So I'm of the belief that despite there may be only like 5-6 ways of telling a story, it's the characters that make it so interesting. So yeah, so it's like, I'm always of like, you know, it's always good hearing that, you know, a lot of good video game stories have good characters that kind of carry it forward. So yeah, do you have a favorite character? Or I know that's kind of hard to ask, but
it's tough with such a like a huge cast. But I mean, I definitely say that like
into a waifu war.
Waifu war definitely. But no, I think in terms of like character development and just like characters itself, I'm pretty like the standout character in Persona 3 definitely is just Aigis. Which yeah, I know Morgan loves Aigis, but because Aigis is a really interesting character in that when she's introduced to the story, she's simply introduced as like a robot. Like she's literally like, she's a robot that was built to destroy shadows, which are the like evil bad guys in the game. That's and badass. Yeah, and so she joins like she's basically given to the group because the group is owned by like a big wealthy corporation that created the robot and creates like a bunch of stuff to help them fight the shadows. She's basically just given to them and is like, yeah, here's a robot. Go ahead, like she can fight shadows. Go nuts. And she's a really interesting character because you kind of like you get to like see her gain her humanity, if that makes sense, because she starts off as just like a emotionless robot, and as she like hangs out with the other party members and as she like has more experiences and kind of like gets to experience life, she herself becomes more human like. And while like she's still a robot, but like a big turning point is basically her like upgrading her persona, because every character gets like like their persona is like their stand, again, like to compare to JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, because that's the easiest way I can think of explaining it. That's like you can only upgrade your persona after like facing a really like harsh sort of like life moment. Like I don't know, it's like a very harsh experience is really what like draws out the evolution of a persona. And so like pretty much by all definitions a robot shouldn't be able to like experience something like that, and then she does at the end of the game, or close to the end of the game, and it's just it's a nice kind of like way to round out her character arc. And then she essentially like become like it's basically you're basically told at the end of the game that she's the one that's gonna like carry out the legacy of the protagonist after he passes, like after he dies, after he sacrifices himself to keep away the god of death. And I just think that's a really nice like way to end her character. It's pretty sweet. Again, like I'm like not doing anything in Persona 3 justice with like my 5-minute explanations, but
it's okay. I couldn't really do The Last of Us, like I couldn't do God of War 2018 justice. So like,
do you want to bring up the answer?
No, okay. I don't.
What is that in the background? Are you in a cave or something?
Sorry, my parents are upstairs playing board games and they're sliding the chairs. I don't know why they're.
Okay.
Well, I'm just gonna add this real quick. Persona 3 Fest, which is like the updated version of Persona 3, came out with this bonus extra chapter thing called The Answer. It's mostly grindy stuff, but there's a big element to it where I guess literally takes the main character slot, and because one of the things of Persona is like Everest saying that like they have stands, right? But the main character in every Persona game, like from 3 to 5, has the ability to summon multiple personas. Like they call it the wild card ability. And so yeah, Persona 3 Fest basically gives I guess the wild card ability. She becomes even more human. But yeah, the answer kind of sucks, so I'm gonna stop talking about it.
Damn, that's kind of nuts.
I never played The Answer. Full disclosure, I played the base game, but I've never played The Answer.
Okay, just to give a short
I've never
summary,
played the base game.
The Answer is like 60 hours of grinding and then less than an hour of like actual story.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard it's just a nightmare.
I'm back.
Cool.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's all right. Okay, so I guess that was a pretty good discussion actually. So I guess moving on to Morgan's first pick. What would your pick be?
I'm gonna go small. Actually, I'm probably gonna go like a little bit smaller, just because the other two I feel like I could expand into it.
Yeah, I bit off a bit more than I could do with Persona 3.
Go big or go home, man.
Literally, I'm gonna talk about one of my like favorite just games of all time. It's definitely up there, top 3. You've probably heard of this because it's one of the biggest indie darlings ever to hit the scene. It's a game called The Binding of Isaac, and I guess more specifically, I'm going to be talking about its remake, The Binding of Isaac Rebirth, and the following expansions, Afterbirth and Afterbirth Plus. And so the reason why I really like Isaac's story is because I'm a big sucker for story through gameplay. If you're able to sell a story to me, as much as I love like Last of Us and like Uncharted, like I like my story to be more like, oh, I can read into this mechanic and it gives me a lot of insight. You get that with Isaac, whether it be the items, the characters themselves, like their stats and whatnot, or an item in the game. Because a lot of it is not given. All that is given at the start, because there's a little like cutscene that narrates the beginning of basically Isaac lives alone with his mother on top of a hill. And Isaac, likes keeping to himself, just drawing, playing with his toys. And one day, his mom discovers God, more or less, and becomes infatuated with the idea that, just God is right, God is just. And so she starts hearing God, and God's telling her to do all these stuff, to the point where Isaac's now just isolated, no toys, no games. And I think one of the jokes is he also gets circumcised. But yeah, essentially it goes to the point where God's like, this is not enough. I need you to sacrifice your son to prove that you love me. And so the basis of the game is Isaac's running from his mother, who's trying to kill him because she has gone whack. And so you don't get a lot of the backstory until you unlock items and you read into it. Because the game technically has, I think, 17 endings or something nutty like that.
Mm-hmm. It's like in the 20s now.
Yeah, it gives a little explanation to a simple part of the backstory. And so, full spoiler alert, you don't really you won't really figure it out until you look at the items. I think in my opinion the items are the best way of telling stories. And it's not like Dark Souls where you can look at a single item and you can make a 40-minute lore video out of it. As much as I love Dark Souls, that's kind of dumb. But anyways, a big factor in Isaac's mom going crazy is that her and her Isaac's dad had a divorce, and he left them. And so there's a lot of items that I feel like are pretty symbolic and pretty awesome. One of my favorite items in general for storytelling is Isaac's key. And so I didn't really explain the gameplay, but the gameplay is like a top-down roguelike where you're just trying to reach the final boss and just beat them. And you just go room to room, kind of like a Zelda dungeon. And so what Dad's key does, so it's such an awesome way of just describing how Isaac's dad just leaves them. He just opened the door and left. Because Dad's key just lets you open every door that is in a special room, and you can just leave.
Mm-hmm.
And stuff like that, just using mechanics to tell characters, character moments and such, is very awesome. And you attack you with your tears, so there's a lot of items that just make Isaac cry. Another part of it is Isaac gets abused a lot, and so there's a lot of mom-related items that just get used to abuse him. There's an item called Mom Spoon. It gives you speed up. And what it does, a lot of items change how you look. And so what Mom Spoon does implies Isaac's mom's beating him with a spoon, thus increasing his speed up. There's also a coat hanger, which goes through Isaac's skull and causes him to cry more. Tears up, fire rate up. And yeah, oh god, I could just go on and on and on. But this is
there's hundreds of items in Isaac, and all of them have connections like that.
I guess something to note is the significance of incorporating a lot of lore into items that could pretty much what am I trying to get at? I guess it's making meaning out of nothing, I guess. With hearing that and hearing how significant everything kind of plays into the story and how almost everything plays into weaving into the narrative properly, it makes me think of video games that kind of incorporate lore into the story, but none of it is kind of significant in a way. If I can think of it, Fallout and the Elder Scrolls, they typically pepper their entire landscape full of random stories from survivors or anything. And to be honest, it's a nice way of expanding the world, but it doesn't really give you a lot of it's kind of things that you could just pick up and think, oh, that's cool, that how they incorporated that kind of story into the world to help it make it feel more alive. But hearing how you're talking about Isaac and how everything ties into Isaac's story, that's really interesting, and that's I think a little bit cooler compared to making the world feel more alive. It's making everything significant and making, I guess, everything just work towards telling the story of this character.
Yeah, and just like another thing to add, just one more. Public stories also take a lot from personal lives of the creator. And Rick McMillan wasn't like, he grew up in a religious household, so that's why there's a lot of religious references. But he doesn't really care for that stuff, so instead of like really incorporating this, religious context, he just adds really cool stuff. Like a lot of the bosses are, devil related stuff. But they're there for more of the rule of cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
and also just one more thing, one more final thing. I apologize.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
The Binding of Isaac, like the original story, pretty sick story.
Mm.
Like the Bible actually, like, look, I'm not like praise Jeebus type of beat, but Bible has some hardcore stories.
Mm-hmm.
So you atheists out there, read the Bible once in a while.
All right, well, I guess that's the most important message, and that may or may not be clipped for social media. But anyway, yeah, I was just gonna say, like, yeah, it's been a while since I've been familiar with the Binding of Isaac in general. Like, I've seen gameplay of it and just how you say it's an indie darling, and it definitely is because it looks gorgeous as a video game on its own. And I've heard so many things about its story, and like, yeah, I asked the question to Everest, but I guess to you, how is the Binding of Isaac, and I guess the Rebirth story, how is that kind of really stood out to you in a way? Like, how is that kind of made? Like, how has it made its impression onto you?
I think a reason why it's definitely made an impression is because I think back in the day, before pre-YouTube, like before the 2010s, I used to be a kid that played nothing but like real mainstream stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And games that really that didn't challenge the norms. And so something like the reason why it just stands out to me is because I definitely feel the passion with that game.
Yeah.
Like, as much as Ed McMillan doesn't, he's not in charge of that game anymore. Like Rebirth and all that content is basically made from a different dev team, Nicholas, I believe they're called, with like Edmund's approval. But even then, I see a lot of passion behind that game.
Yeah.
Like, I love me a shooter. Don't get me wrong. I'll play a Call of Duty for the multiplayer and such, but a lot of it just feels like factory work. And to me, the Binding of Isaac was the first real experience of, oh, hey, this guy put a lot of love and passion into this, and you can tell.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, like it's definitely one of the earliest examples that I can recall of, I guess how modern indie games kind of play lately. It's like there's so much passion and so much creativity that you don't really see in AAA titles anymore. Like, obviously I know that there are some exceptions, but like with indie titles such as, like after the Binding of Isaac, there was Celeste, there was Hollow Knight, Cuphead, Oxenfree, like all these games with so much creativity and so much beauty to them, like in terms of their story, graphics, gameplay. Like I personally can't really put that all on the Binding of Isaac, but it really did set a good precedent for how a lot of games after it kind of play into. Like, you go to a AAA title to get the worthwhile experience, or to get a $60 or $80 for our sense. Like, you get that and it's fun, right? Like, you can play these games with your friends and whatever. But if you want like a real passion project with dedicated stories, beautiful characters, gameplay designs, and whatever, like, you go to indie games.
Yeah.
Right?
Also, Binding of Isaac, as much as I love it, it's also responsible for like every following indie game to be some kind of fucking roguelike.
Yeah.
Dead Cells.
Oh, okay, hold up. Don't talk shit about Dead Cells. I'll fucking kill
kidding.
you.
I'm kidding.
I'll fucking kill you, Dean.
This is gonna be what? This is gonna be what? Like the third time you threatened my life this week?
Fuck
We're
around
not
and
saying
find
indie
out.
roguelikes are bad.
No,
We're just saying there's a lot.
I'm just sick of them.
Yeah, I'm just teasing Gabe. I'm not gonna talk shit about Dead Cells. Dead Cells is fun.
I'm perfectly fine with talking shit about bad roguelikes.
I mean, there are definitely bad roguelikes out there, but
Yeah.
I'm not saying all of them.
I'm just
No.
sick of roguelikes
It's just-
in general.
And Souls likes. That's another. I'm just sick of both.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Not even Souls-like. I'm just sick of game journalists going, "This is the blank of, this is the Dark Souls of blank."
This is truly the Dark Souls of video games.
Like when the Crash Bandicoot is the Dark Souls of
my
platformers.
god,
I lost
that was
faith in
so
humanity.
annoying.
I don't care if it's a meme.
I would even go so far as to say that this is the Dark Souls of podcasts.
I hate you. I hate you. There's so much lore in this podcast.
All right,
you know?
let's reel it back to the actual podcast before we get kind of lost in conversation. So those were our first set of picks. Everest, what would be your second pick?
I was gonna save this one for last, but I think it just ties in so well with what we're talking about with Binding of Isaac. I'm probably just gonna go with it right now. But my second pick would be Outer Wilds. If you guys have heard of that game.
Oh, fuck. Yeah, that is one that I've been meaning to play for a while.
Yeah,
I won't
that.
I won't spoil it, but I will kind of like explain the setup and the story because it's really, really interesting. Because Outer Wilds is a game with no combat. It's entirely exploration and puzzle solving, and it's really cool because it's essentially a Metroidvania that's done through, instead of getting upgrades, you acquire knowledge, if that makes sense.
Oh.
And I'll kind of explain that with like the story, because essentially in Outer Wilds you're playing a story that's already happened and you're dealing with the aftermath. Because like in Outer Wilds you play as this cadet on this planet called Timberhearth, and he's like basically the newest recruit in Timberhearth's space program. And as far as his story goes, he is just a guy that's the newest recruit, and he's been training for years to go venture off into space, and today is the day that he's going to do it, and he's finally going to venture off into space. And so you spend the first few bits of the game just kind of like learning the controls and exploring the planet until finally you get access to your ship. And then immediately you can fly your ship out into the solar system, which, by the way, the entire solar system like seamlessly works with no loading screens. Like you just fly up into space, you see a planet, you can go and land on it, and there's no loading screens or anything in between. It's insane. And then you're just allowed to explore the universe, pretty much, like the solar system, until 20 minutes happen and the sun explodes and you die. And that's basically how your first run through will always work. You can die beforehand, but that's pretty much how like everyone's run through happens. And then you realize that after dying in the sun explosion, or beforehand if you like mess up your flying or something, or you make a bad jump, you wake up again and you're back where the game started, where you're just a new recruit getting ready to fly a space. And you keep doing this and you realize that your character is inside of a time loop where every 20 minutes the sun explodes, you die, and you're sent back 20 minutes before the sun explodes.
Oh,
and
shit.
Damn.
And your goal in the game is to explore the universe, figure out why the sun is exploding, and try and stop it from exploding.
Every 20 minutes, my god.
Yeah. And so that's pretty much how the game works. And like I said, like you're basically playing in a story that already happened. And this is because as you explore the universe, you find out that like millions of years ago, there was an alien race that landed in the solar system that you live in before like your race even like evolved into the species that they currently are. Like this was a long time ago. An alien species was there, and they basically discovered everything in the universe and created a bunch of these high-tech machinery and did a lot of messing around that led to the sun exploding. And so your goal now is to pretty much finish their story, because they made basically they made like a ridiculous error that killed all of them off and caused the sun to explode. And now millions of years later, you're the one that needs to solve that.
Damn.
And so you start the game with no knowledge whatsoever. And as you explore the planets, you find these old ruins from this old alien civilization. And you can read their like they left like writings and cave drawings and stuff. And you can kind of like figure out what they were trying to do. And then you use that knowledge to explore other planets and stuff. Like a good example is there's one planet that is completely, as soon as you fly into the planet, it's full of these angry giant creatures that will eat your ship and you'll die. And you have no way of getting around them. So what you have to do instead is you need to explore the other planets and find knowledge that an alien left behind that explains how to get past those giant creatures. And the whole game is kind of structured like that, where you're given these like boundaries, but they're only boundaries because you lack knowledge. And you need to go to another planet and figure out, like, find the knowledge that lets you pass that boundary. And it's really neat in that regard. And every single planet has its own like special gimmick, but I don't want to spoil them all because they're really cool, especially on a first game's kind of mind. But that's essentially the main story. Another really cool thing with the game too is that all these aliens from like this past civilization actually have names, and you can see these names written down when you're when you're like reading their their writings that they left behind. And the cool thing is that they really didn't have to do this, but an added detail is you can actually like keep track of the names of every alien, and like every single one of them has like a separate story throughout the solar system that like led to their death. And you can like follow, like you can see like, okay, well, this is where like this alien landed in the solar system, and then they went to this planet, and then they died here. And like the game never asks you to like track the specific lifetime of an alien, but it's really cool that you can just kind of do that if you want to.
My God, that sounds like that legit sounds like a world builder's fever dream.
Yep. it's awesome.
Yeah, it's insane just how much. Sorry, Gabe, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I'm just stammering.
Yeah, well, no, I was just about to say, like, it's seriously like the scope of everything and just how beautiful that all looks. Like I've seen screenshots of the Outer Wilds. It looks gorgeous, and just how much content like is supposedly in it. Like, obviously, I've had my eye on it for a while, but I haven't picked it up yet. It looks so good, and it, like, just with how much imagination and how much thought has been put into it, like, you know, it seems like a fantasy gamer's dream, or at least like a sci-fi gamer's dream, right? Like exploring the depths of space. Like, I'm a huge sucker for space in general, so like that's something that appeals to me a lot. And like, you know, whole names worth of like aliens with names on it, and just how long the story has been going on for, like, that's insane.
It's a really cool game. It's, again, like I'm holding back details because I don't want to spoil everything, because the entire game is like built off the knowledge that you know nothing.
Yeah.
And it's just like it was like probably like one of my favorite gaming experiences that I've had in a long. Playing that game was kind of mind blowing, and I'd even go so far as to say it was like almost life changing.
Oh,
just
really?
Just because like I want to be a game developer, right? And like playing that game just kind of made me like completely rethink everything I thought I knew about game design and how to like build a world and how to build mechanics and that sort of stuff. Like, it was just like that game on like every aspect is.
It's really set like such an incredibly high standard, but it's also one that you kind of want to reach, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's the same. Like, it's the same thing for me with a new Rare game that's coming out called Everwild.
Yes.
Which is funny because I don't have an Xbox and I don't plan on picking up the Series X. But like when I was tuning into the conference and I saw Everwild being developed by Rare of all developers, I was like, oh fuck, maybe I might, because it looks so good. Like how the characters designed, what they're wearing, like how everything looks, like the feel of it, like it's set such a standard for me personally on how game design and how, I guess, fantasy should be told in stories, especially in video games too. Like, that looks so gorgeous.
Right? Yeah, and it's I highly recommend. It just came out on Steam because it was on the Epic Games Store for a while, but definitely buy it, play it. Everybody should play it. It's mad underrated.
I've been meaning to play it for like years, and I had no idea what it was about. I'm gonna like bump that way up my backlog.
Yeah,
that sounds fucking incredible.
Yeah,
Wait, sorry, guys.
Awesome.
Guys, were we talking about The Outer Worlds by Obsidian Entertainment?
No, not that one.
Not that one.
I'm sure that game is fine, but Outer Wilds is amazing.
It's okay. It's
I
very short.
It's not New Vegas.
yeah,
That's for sure.
oh god, Outer Worlds. Since I guess we'll just entertain that tangent for a while. Outer Worlds, I finally, or not that long ago, I got out of the main, I guess, like Emerald Vale. That's kind of the starting area of everything, and I have not touched the game since. And that was
no, that's fair.
Back in
that's
June.
The game gets significantly worse after that first area.
Mm-hmm.
Like in terms of storytelling, like that first area, like reminded me of the first time I played Fallout 1. I like got that same like incredible vibe of just like a genuine like moral quandary in an RPG, and I was like, oh man, this is great. But then I played the rest of the game and I was like, oh, this fucking sucks. What the hell?
So what we're saying, guys, is buy the new expansion pack coming soon.
I think it's unfortunate that Outer Worlds and Outer Wilds came out so close to each other too.
Yeah.
You want to hear the funniest part too?
What?
The head writer. I remember reading an article where the head writer of Outer Wilds that helped create like the amazing story that Outer Wilds has got hired by Obsidian.
Oh my god.
So she could very well be working on Outer Worlds now.
Yeah.
They better well work their magic for that new Obsidian RPG or fantasy RPG.
Yeah.
Which is like,
oh my god, that's a thing.
yeah.
Is Obsidian making a new fantasy RPG? I'll
Yeah, they're
play
making Elder Scrolls 6. That's coming out.
Yeah.
They're not
but
making
it's on
Scrolls.
it's on the creation engine, so they're just making Skyrim 5.
Nice.
All right. Anyway, I guess with that out of the way, Morgan, what would your second pick be?
Okay, so I should have probably done this first if we're gonna segue better, because the game I'm picking is more because of the characters and such. But I'm pretty sure you guys know this. This is probably one of the more bigger series now that the latest iteration on Switch came out. But today, for tonight, I want to be talking about Fire Emblem: The Sacred Stones. So the Sacred Stones is I believe the 8th Fire Emblem game. It is the 3rd GBA game. And Fire Emblem usually follows the same plot lines to a T. It's just how they tell them. And so, basic plot lines are, hey, dragons are going to awake, or bad guys are going to awaken the dragon. We have to have this prince or princess stop them using the magical MacGuffins, yada, yada, yada. And be honest, the main story is a little lame. It's usually every Fire Emblem game. But the reason why I love it is because a lot of stories get elevated by characters. Now, Everest was talking about Persona 3 and the best part being in the characters. And I'm going to go a little bit weird here. The main characters for Sacred Stones are absolute garbage. They are a pair of twins, Erica and Ephraim. They're basically the Wonder Twins, if anyone knows what those two names are. They are lukewarm and awful, and they are based. Fun fact: there's a lot of themes of incest. Like their main weapons at the end are named after, I believe, like a Greek opera, where the main characters are siblings that love each other. And so,
isn't that all of Greek mythology though?
Literally all of Greek, to be honest. But essentially, those characters kind of suck. They're lame. A lot of the appeal for me for the characters comes from the antagonist and the supporting cast. And so I know this is a trope nowadays. This is a turn-based RPG, by the way. Like, it's turn-based strategy RPG. And this is a done trope, but one of the secondary villains, Walter, is the best example of a fucking super beefed up villain who could one-shot everyone. He is introduced wiping out like half of your units because he's just cool as hell. And I remember 6-year-old Morgan, not legally, mind you, playing this game on his computer, was so blown away at how cool that archetype is. And I'm pretty sure there's way better examples of that archetype, but he was the first for me, and he easily gave a lasting impression. And so there's villains like him. There's supporting characters like La Rachel, who I don't even know how to describe Rachel. She's easily one of my favorite Fire Emblem waifus. Where
Would you have to go into the mic for that?
Yeah, she's a nutter. She is absolutely insane. She brings her because she's also like she's not a princess per se, but she is royalty in some fashion, and she brings her retainers everywhere because she can sense adventure and she wants to be a part of the action. So there's characters like her. There's characters like Lute, who she's also waifu contender because she's just a sassy magic user. No, she's not a nutter. She's like the opposite. She's just like, man, bitch, I'm better than you. I don't have to deal with your scrawny ass. She's just smug, and I love it.
All right.
Yeah, and then there's I think this is the last character I'm gonna have to talk about. All I'm saying is all the characters are great, but this one minor character, Orson, is easily one of my favorite Fire Emblem characters because, okay, keep in mind for future talk about this. This is a rated E game, but Orson was originally a retainer for Eric and Ephraim. You know, just a little like fucking service guy, and he later on you find out that he betrays you. He sells you out to the villains like Walter and such because they promised him that they would resurrect his dead wife. And so they kind of do. They get a necromancer, they raise his wife from the dead. But she is nothing but a vegetable zombie. She can only say one word, which is his name. Orson. Just keeps on repeating that. And it is heavily implied that due to the rage and anger, Orson just basically does some sexual assault on her. On the vegetable zombie.
Why are you saying it like it's a seasoning on a steak?
Rated E for everyone.
Yeah, we need to remember that.
But I remember reading that as a kid. I didn't actually get it. I was too afraid of telling my parents because I knew it wasn't good. So I told my cousin, they explained it to me, and I was like, oh no.
Oh man, your first bra moment.
Keep in mind, these are the same people who also showed me Bible Black. Yeah, they were willing to tell me anything. And so yeah, again, Fire Emblem, that's another. Like, some games will just have inherently, like, 6 stories. Like, again, I will say it, please buy 3 Houses. Some of the best Fire Emblem in a while, especially with the 3DS games being whack. Because I fucking hate them. They're bad characters. But yes, Sacred Stones, it's easily not the best, but it is my favorite in terms of storytelling. Because, or like, not even storytelling, it's just most memorable because it has some of the best characters, for sure.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, if you're going to play a Fire Emblem game, either play that or any of the other GBA games. I don't care if you have to go out of your way to play the 6th one, even though that's in complete Japanese.
There's ways.
Please, for God's sakes, do not play Awakening. I don't care what anyone says. You have to be either the world's biggest normie or a 13-year-old girl to like that game.
Okay.
Garbage.
All right. Okay. All right. So I guess to open up.
I never played Fire Emblem, but I was under the impression people liked Awakening.
People like Awakening. They're allowed to like Awakening.
They're not
allowed
allowed
to tell them that they're wrong.
People do like Awakening. Morgan's just a hipster.
I'm not a hipster.
Yeah, we've been saying that since high school, dude.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, to open up the conversation a little bit, you had mentioned that one of the big characters that stuck out to your mind was a villain, or like like a villain and side characters. And like not too long ago, Gabe and I did an episode where we were talking about our favorite characters, and all of the characters that I mentioned at least were side characters, that even really hadn't been introduced yet or hadn't been like fully developed yet. But like, it's seriously so interesting that side characters are like characters that developers will probably put in and think, you know what, they might have their moment in the spotlight for a little bit, but ultimately it's about this character. Like, they ultimately end up being some of the most impressionable and some of the most likable characters out there, right? Like, I think, like, wouldn't you guys agree? Like,
Oh yeah, for sure.
yeah, and especially with villains too. Like, I know that, I guess in storytelling nowadays, there's such an emphasis on having like the big bad cool villain, right? Or like, you know, the villains with sympathetic backstories that kind of blur the lines between making them a truly evil villain or, you know, just a misunderstood good or a misunderstood anti-hero or whatever. But yeah, like villains and the supporting cast really do like help enhance a story, right? And I guess in video games especially, where you have opportunity to include a bunch of them, right? So I guess, yeah, that's just an interesting thing. I guess that's just an interesting thing that I've kind of noted when I was listening in, because like it really does, like, there's really not a good story for a protagonist unless there is, I guess, a more interesting antagonist on the other side, right? And that's just talking about villains.
We could go on and on about villains. Maybe we should just make villains in video games episode next.
That'd be cool. Well, I mean, like, I'd like to talk about it. Like, what did it, like, I guess while we're on the topic, like, outside of Fire Emblem, like, what's your guys' favorite video game villain? Right? Because that's just a way of good, like, storytelling, right? Like, it's left an impression on you just how much of a villain this person was, right?
That's a tough question.
Yeah, I'd have to think about that for a while. That's like asking someone like what their favorite song is. Like, you got to think about that for months.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, like, it could even just be like the first one that comes to your mind, right? Like, for me, the first one that comes to my mind is Baldur from God of War 2018.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah,
That's
like,
pretty solid.
yeah, like Baldur, you know, for those who don't know or haven't played it, you know, Baldur is a very cool villain. Like, he doesn't, like, he carries himself with such, like, he carries himself like a badass, but at the same time you still hate him.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you understand that he's a villain, he understands that he's a villain. He's not trying to be the good guy in any sense, but just how he carries himself and how Santa Monica Studios have written him, he's super impressionable. Like, and he's really cool. Like, he really is still, I think, one of my favorite villains in video games right now.
Yeah, he's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
I guess, well, he became more of like not hero, but he became more of just like a proper side character. But in the first game, Goro Majima of the Yakuza series.
Yes! My
he's
boy!
one of the
Best boy!
So essentially, his gimmick is he's insane. He is called the Mad Dog of Shibano because he has an eye patch and he just goes wild with a knife. He is utterly insane. And the reason why I love him so much is because he's essentially just the Japanese Joker. They live in a Yakuza society, damn it. And he carries the story. He's fun. He's funny. He's great. And another fun fact, Yakuza 1 got a English dub. And that game had an all-star cast. Like, Madison Nichols is one of the villains. But more importantly, Goro Majima is voiced by Mark Hamill.
That's
Are you
amazing.
fucking serious?
Yeah, I mean, the English dub is garbage. It is awful. It's so fun to laugh at because every line they have to fit in a motherfucker. It's like, if you have the free time, just listen to the English dub because it's horror bad, and I love it for that. But yeah, that's just another fun trivia for Yakuza.
That is pretty cool, though. Getting Mark Hamill to do anything, pretty much. That's sweet.
Yeah,
Mark Hamill's amazing.
Yeah.
Mark Hamill.
It's worth mentioning. We started talking about this because Dean mentioned the best characters episode that we did, and Goro Majima was one of my picks.
Nice.
I love that dude.
Cool.
Goro
So,
Majima.
Everest, I guess that leaves you. Do you have, I guess, like an impressionable or like a video game villain that pops into your head?
I was thinking about that, and like all the ones I can think of off the top of my head are kind of like spoilers for their corresponding game, so I'll stay away from those. But I know that's a good one that like really sticks out. One that really sticks out that I really like that isn't like really spoilery is GLaDOS from the Portal series. I think GLaDOS is an awesome villain. Just like I mean, the first game she's just like funny. Like she's just enjoyable, and I feel like that's like a big thing with villains is like you want them to be enjoyable. Like even though they're the bad guy, you don't want them to like be boring.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And GLaDOS is very much like the opposite of that. Like she for being an AI, she has such a personality, and she's always like making sassy remarks at your character, and she's always like making these like dry jokes that are even drier because of just the atmosphere and the absolute silence from Aperture. From like the Aperture Laboratories, and then I think the second game especially does a really good job of actually giving her like somewhat of a rounded out like character arc. And I think like the best way to just kind of like encapsulate all of GLaDOS's character is that like at the end of both Portal games, the credit song is a song that's actually sung by GLaDOS herself. And like at the end of the first game, she sings like the iconic "Still Alive." And that song is pretty much her just like, haha, I'm still alive, you idiot, I'm going to kill you. And that's like the whole song. But then like by the end of Portal 2, she sings a new song called Want You Gone, and the whole song is pretty much just like, I don't hate you anymore, but I still don't like you, so I just like want you out of my life. Like I don't get out of here. And I just like I think that's like a great way to kind of like encapsulate her character arc through the two games, and just like she's just very entertaining. And I really like her.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, just as a side note, oh my god, I can hear music in the background, and it's really irritated me.
Yeah, I can hear like I can kind of hear it. It's
god
like
damn it. Well, there goes. Oh, god.
It's like it comes in and out. I feel like you could get away with it.
I hope I can get away with it. I haven't been claimed so far on YouTube, so.
No. Just double down and just put a bunch of just put some Linkin Park or some copyright stuff that'll get instantly taken down.
It's not loud enough that it's like recognizable.
Yeah, the bots can't hear it.
But it's just like loud enough that like when you speak, you can like kind of hear like whispers of it in the back.
Fantastic. All right. Well, I know who I'm gonna scorn later when the session's over. Anyway. All right. I guess with all that being said, let's move into our final set of picks. And I guess Everest, since you had posed such a good segue, let's talk about your final pick. Which one would that be?
Final pick. This one will probably be a quick one because it's like I can run through it quickly. There's no like crazy overarching themes and 5 games in the series that I have to go through in 5 minutes. So my last pick is Bioshock.
Which,
yeah,
not too
nice.
So Bioshock is a game about a dude that quote unquote accidentally stumbles into a underwater city that was created by the great Andrew Ryan, who attempted to create a society away from like basically he tried to create a society away from society. Mm-hmm. That's like the easiest way to put it.
He was different.
And it worked for a while. And then bad shit happened, and it stopped working, and the whole city went nuts, and its denizens all became like crazy junkies, and the whole city got like pretty much destroyed and torn down, and that's where your character shows up in this destroyed, torn down city, and especially Detroit, pretty much. And especially like if you're going into the game blind, the first like 20 minutes of you just like entering Rapture, like crashing your airplane and then entering the lighthouse and then going to Rapture is like kind of insane.
Yeah.
Like it's so cool. It's so cool. And the game just kind of like ramps up from there, that like you get to see how like far gone this city has become, and you find like audio logs and you see like pictures of like what it used to be and how great it probably was at the time. Mm. And to see it now in this state, like you keep getting like you just keep asking yourself questions that don't really get answers, but I think that's like even cool. I think that makes it even cooler. and like you just meet a lot of really cool characters, and the big spoiler alert, the big twist at about the halfway point through the game is brilliant and is so cool, and is like one of the probably my favorite twists in like gaming history. Mm-hmm. That being that the whole time you've been guided by this character called Apollo, and he's been like telling you to do stuff, and he's this like
I thought it was Atlas.
Oh, Atlas. I got the two confused. Yeah, no, there's no Apollo. It's Atlas. They both start with A. I got confused. It's Atlas. He tells you, and like he always starts his sentence, or he always like whenever he asks you to do something, he says like, "Hey, would you kindly do this?" And it's just like that's just his thing. He just says that.
Yeah, it's
and then you find out, and then you find out that it's like basically a code word, and that your character is actually like basically a sleeper agent that's conditioned to do whatever they're told after being told, "Would you kindly?" That's like the key word, and you doing stuff, and you find that out at the halfway point of the game, and it's kind of mind blowing because you realize like, he did say "would you kindly" a lot. And even like going back and like second playthroughs, you can find the phrase "would you kindly" like everywhere in the game, and it's so cool. And it brings up another term that I'm sure you guys are familiar with, but it's a ludonarrative dissonance. You guys are familiar with that term, which I love. Game like as a wannabe game designer, I love talking about ludonarrative dissonance because for those who don't know what it is, it's essentially the idea that like gameplay and story are like two different things, and they don't like really interact with each other. For instance, like in Mario, if Mario was a story, Mario wouldn't be able to like see his coin counter every time he picks up a coin. Like that wouldn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
But the player needs to see that for like the gameplay to make sense. So that's kind of the idea between ludonarrative dissonance. It's the same thing in like games where you're given like a compass or like a mini map with like markers that show you where to go. Like the real character wouldn't be able to see that, and so it doesn't really make sense.
Mm-hmm.
But Bioshock having that twist makes like parts of it like it kind of gets rid of that ludonarrative dissonance because like you're technically like you're literally being told what to do. And you have to do it because like that's how the story works. Like that's your character has been conditioned to do stuff when being told "would you kindly?" And I just I love that twist. That's like one of my favorite twists in video game history.
Mm-hmm.
It's so cool.
Yeah. Well, on ludonarrative dissonance, like I like correct me if I'm wrong here, but like it's kind of playing into dramatic irony, isn't it?
Yeah,
like where the audience knows something or the characters know something. I think it's the audience knows something that the characters don't.
100%.
Yeah, and that obviously like includes a lot of twists that in storytelling in general. That like dramatic irony really does add a lot of tension and a lot of mystery towards certain situations, right? And like incorporating that into Bioshock's big twist, it certainly really does like leave you with an impression, right? Like to this day still, it's still one of my personal favorite gaming twists ever. Like it's
a good one.
Oh yeah. Like how I guess just between those two, like ludonarrative dissonance and dramatic irony, it's seriously withholding information can be such a powerful tool in storytelling.
Yes.
That eventually when everything does finally get revealed to you and you and especially if you did a good enough job telling that story before that big twist, like that's what makes it memorable. That's what makes these stories so iconic and so like lasting in our heads, right?
Yeah.
The fact that you went in with very little knowledge and were given such little things along the way, and how you thought you knew everything but then you didn't, like I think that's almost always like a timeless story for me. Like I love knowing, or I love the feeling of like, oh shit, I didn't know everything this entire time. Like it's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Very good tool.
Mm-hmm.
I think it helps too with Bioshock that it's just like a world that you would like that's just so interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were talking about world building too earlier, and like the underwater city of Rapture just has so much to it. Even after everything had gone to shit, like the big daddies, little sisters, all of it, like the weapons, how everyone kind of gets their powers and everything. There's so much world building behind that. And everything is so comprehensive, but so easy. But it's easy enough to understand that like pretty much anyone can pick it up and love it.
Yes.
Right. Like it's it's pretty simple gameplay too, and obviously, you know, gameplay isn't the main focus of this podcast, but like the fact that it's so easy to pick up makes it so that, you know, you can follow along with the story, right? And everything, like, you don't really see that big twist coming, and eventually when it does, and if you had been keeping along pretty well, like, then it instantly becomes one of your favorite games. Like, personally I had heard about Bioshock for so long before I finally actually got the chance to play it. Oh my god. I love getting cut out when I'm in the middle of saying something. I feel like Discord just doesn't like me. So yeah, like I was, and now we're back.
All right.
Welcome to the train wreck that is recording these sessions. Anyway, so when I had first played Bioshock and when I finally finished it, I was in awe. Like, even if I knew about the twist that was coming in, there's something about, like, just how it all pulls you in and makes it so captivating from every single aspect of it. It makes it so easy to lose yourself in it.
Yeah. I think also it has the added benefit too of, like, much like movies with, like, big twists, that's like it kind of completely like changes the way you view the first half of the game.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with, like, movies with big twists, how you can, you know, go back and watch a movie knowing that twist and you're like, holy shit, this is a completely different movie now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so cool. It's so cool. I love talking about that twist.
Yeah. It's how dramatic irony plays into storytelling. Like,
yes.
Even if you know everything going into it, you're still not going to be prepared for it when you finally understand everything. Like, you may know the twist, but until you've experienced it for yourself, then it won't hit as hard.
Oh yeah, I went in
multiple times.
Yeah, I went in like when I originally played Bioshock, I went in already knowing the twist, and it still blew my mind.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Gabe, how about you? Like, what did you think of the big twist in Bioshock?
Well, I'm gonna be honest. My first Bioshock game was Bioshock 2. And then I played the first Bioshock after this. So I did know the twist going into it, but I still thought it was, like, kind of insane how the game fucks with, like, a core gameplay element to that. There's another game that I'd love to talk about in a future episode, which I won't name now. It does this, but with, like, the way Bioshock fucks with, like, the basic gameplay element in linear games of, like, an objective marker and how it fucks with that in retrospect. That's like mind-blowingly creative. Toy around with, like, established, like, understood gameplay mechanics.
That's such a good game. That's a good way to kind of end off Everest's picks. It's a really
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, Morgan. What would your third and final pick be for this episode?
Okay, unlike Everest, I decided to leave the biggest one for the end. Because
I don't know. Bioshock was pretty big.
Bioshock's pretty big, but I mean in terms of story. And I kind of broke my rule when thinking of games to pick of no visual novels. But just the way. Okay, so I'm a big sucker for just messing around with the format. And the game I decided to pick is a game called 9 Hours, 9 Persons, 9 Doors. 999. You could rearrange all those words, to be honest.
I'm gonna let you continue in a second, but you were talking about visual novels, and I swear to God, if you were gonna say Doki Doki Literature Club,
I was about to say that. I was so worried.
Hey guys, have you heard of this game called Doki Doki Literature Club? It really messes with you.
I'm just saying. I'm glad you clarified that it was 999.
To be fair, I appreciate what Doki Doki Literature Club did.
I do too.
It's been done to death now.
Yeah, it's such a meme.
Hey guys, have you heard of this game called
Literature Club? I just as soon as we started talking about visual novels, I was like, okay, it's either going to be Doki Doki or Fate, and I better prepare myself now.
No, Fate. I'm not a loser that has 50 million hours to play through all routes of Fate. Are you kidding me? No, but
all right.
999 is I guess you call it a death game scenario. So I'll just give a quick summary of the first chapter before it like decides to go into different routes. So you play as a college student, Junpei. I don't know his last name. I don't think they ever really give it.
They do, but just keep going.
But anyways, Junpei wakes up in what seems to be a ship room, like a I don't know, like a bedroom in a ship. And he's really confused, and attached to him is a bracelet with the number 5 on it. Then suddenly, the windows in the room burst open, and water just starts flooding his room, and so he has to escape. And so, yeah, how the game works is it's part visual novel and part escape the room, like games, like mini games, whatever you want to call them, point and click games.
So it's kind of like an escape room.
It's an escape room. It's an escape room with main gimmick here is multiple decisions, and so he makes it to the lobby of the ship, and he meets 8 other people with 8 different like numbers correspond, and one of them just so happens to be this girl named Akane Kurashiki, who was a childhood friend of Junpei and a secret crush. And so they later find out they are being summoned by, they were captured and put aboard this ship by a guy named Zero. You don't really know what he looks like. All we know is when they're all captured, they saw a guy in a face mask or a gas mask, and that's what they associate with. And so Zero is basically like, hey, if you want to make it alive, you have to go through a door with a number 9. And they're just confused, like, what do you mean? And so throughout this whole like explanation of what's happening, there's a character with a number 9 who seems to be a little distant because everyone's like talking, giving each other code names and such, and trying to figure out how can we get out. But there's this guy with the number 9, he just seems a little shifty. And suddenly he grabs the girl with the number 4, who's codenamed Clover. And I'm doing a really bad job of explaining it, but essentially all the characters just gave themselves nicknames because they didn't want to give away their identity because they don't know who Zero is. Essentially, number 9 man grabs Clover, tells her, hey, you see this door to the number 5? We're going to go up to it. We're going to touch the little keypad, like the touchpad on the side, and we're going to enter the room. Except, once they do open it, he goes in by himself. And so people are wondering, he pushes them out, and he's wondering, wait, I was lied to. They would say I was free after I went through this door. He's panicking because he doesn't know what to do because he could hear these beeps. Beeps continue, and they continue. And the 9th man screams, I don't want to die. And you hear an explosion. And so after that, everyone finds out through, do you guys know what digital root is?
Oh god, you're gonna...
I don't want to explain this too hard, but essentially all their numbers add up to a number on the door. If you do, like, go with the amount of people and such.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how the game splits. Basically, hey, do I want to go through this door where the guy fucking exploded and died? Or do I want to go through this other door? And there's a bunch of different routes. There's a bunch of different escape rooms. And I'm going to go through slight spoilers here. Not too heavily into spoilers, but the reason why I love this game is it just plays around with the idea of visual novels and being able to just randomly go on random routes.
Mm-hmm.
So there's actually, and so through one route, okay, so let me say here, there's like a requirement, like, oh, hey, you had to see this scene in order to continue in this route. And throughout the game, the characters will kind of go, wait, how do you know this? Why do you know we would have to do this and this? And he just goes, I don't know. And all I'm going to tell you is it has to do with the mechanics of being able to select different routes at a time because it's a visual novel.
Mm-hmm.
And 999, like, it is easily, cause I haven't played Outer Wilds, so I can't comment on Outer Wilds, but it is easily, at the time when I first played it back in 2010, 2011, it was life-changing, and I think it still, to this date, is still one of the most smartly written games. Because there's so many sci-fi aspects put into it. Like, just to give an example, there's a thing called...
Oh my god, now I'm cut completely. Yay!
It's really good.
Hi,
Welcome back.
thank you. So,
Not
so Morgan,
should
you
I-
were talking about how it had been like, in your opinion, one of the best or one of the most smartly written games ever, and then
Yeah, it's really well done. Again, when games mess around with the mechanics, and keep in mind this is a visual novel. There's not many mechanics that you can think of, but
Mhm.
Yeah.
once you play 999, you're gonna go, "Oh, this is really smart and really well written." Do keep in mind this game was released on the play. I believe it was released on Vita, but it was released on the PlayStation 4 and Steam, and but it was originally developed for the DS. So there are some mechanics and some smartly written things that do not translate well to the ports. Like I will say, the game does make good use of the DS dual screen, and unfortunately that does get lost in translation. Also, another great example of just fun characters and like really well done characters.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a character. I'll give one of the characters. His name is San, or Santa. Sorry, his name is Santa because San in Japanese means 3, and he's number 3. And I don't know, he's like a dickbag, but a lovable dickbag,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So good to explain it. But yeah, I'm doing a poor job. All I'm saying is, if you want your mind blown, play 999.
A lot of
And then
mind-blowing games.
play the sequel game, VLR, and maybe play the third game in the trilogy, Zero Time Dilemma. But just play 999 at least.
First one's the best in terms of
Yeah,
story.
the first one's the best. Okay, I'm just gonna say this. The first one's, I think VLR Virtue's Last Reward, which is the sequel, is also really well written. The only big problem with it is it has poor 3D models and animation. While the first one sticks to 2D sprites.
Interesting.
Yeah,
All
so
right.
if you
Well,
wanna,
I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah, if you want Danganronpa, good. Play that.
Hey.
I'm
All
just
right.
kidding.
Danganronpa's really good.
We'll see. Yeah, isn't it interesting just how what's the word I'm looking for? Just how far video game storytelling has come, right? I guess with visual novels, some people would think that a visual novel isn't really a video game, but I'm one of the people that do consider it as it, and how many avenues you can take with interactive storytelling in a video game, it's certainly come a long way, and for better or for worse. It seems to me that 999, I guess after hearing you say it, it's definitely one of the better examples of interactive story based video games or visual novels or anything. We joked about Doki Doki earlier. That seems to be it had its moment, but now it's just been overdone to death. And one of the worst examples, I guess, that's just my opinion for people who might be a fan, but Quantic Dream and David Cage games are, I guess, some of the bad examples of, I guess, interactive video game, or I guess interactive storytelling video games, or whatever I'm trying to get at. Beyond Two Souls, Heavy Rain, Detroit Become Human is the most recent.
Human.
Those games, I
hate that
think,
game.
they are video games, and they are developed by what? I guess you can consider them a AAA studio, Quantic Dream, but just how much is packed into those stories and how they're meant to be and how the emphasis is purely on the story, they really don't always work out.
They definitely have their moments.
I'm gonna say
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of David Cage and his games, but I think Detroit is really impressive. As much as I don't care for Detroit, I think the amount of stuff they packed into that game for sure. They took into consideration, hey, when a player do this, well, here's your story completely different.
Yeah.
And I do respect that. For
Yeah.
sure.
Well, yeah, I can respect it too, but the thing is, like, there's so
Revolutionary.
much that you pack into theory, but in execution, does it kind of work out that way, right? Like, people with 999, like, it seems to me, like, from you, like, everything works in its favor. Meanwhile, if you look at, for me at least, with Detroit, like, there was only really one story out of the three main stories that kind of worked out, and everything else was a little bit too much.
His relationship with Hank was like, that was the only moment in that entire game where I felt like, oh, these are actual, like, this feels real. Anytime, I can't even remember the other two fucking characters. They're so boring and forgettable.
Kara and
there was girl whose story's metaphor got ruined at the end because David Cage wanted to make a twist, and then there was, hey, look, I'm Martin Luther King Jr.
Yeah, basically.
I think the worst part of my playthrough of Detroit Become Human, you know how, like, they have that weird android girl on the main menu who, like, talks to you?
Yeah.
Oh, she's creepy.
I think the worst part of my experience with playing that game, and, like, the point where I really just considered stopping my playthroughs then and there, was when I opened the game up and she read out this quote about, like, oppression and stuff. And then when she's done reading out the quote, she says that it was a quote from Martin Luther King, and I was just like, okay.
Yeah.
David Cage definitely has a tendency to have his head up his ass, for sure.
Yeah, like, just how much is too much, right?
Look, all I'm gonna say is, in Indigo Prophecy, the most texturing a model gets is David Cage's model, because in the tutorial, because they put a mustard stain.
That's hilarious.
A mustard stain.
So I guess going back to that, like, we were talking about just how far video game storytelling has come, right? Like, video games used to start out as, Mario just getting from point A to point B, rescuing Princess Peach, but now it's whole, like, book-worthy narratives, right?
Yeah.
And I know,
a long way from Pong.
Oh yeah, yeah, and I guess sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, we got a long way from, what was it, Everest? Space Wars?
Yeah,
like asteroids, Pac-Man. Like, there was, like, it used to be just something for fun, but nowadays,
Pac-Man was actually iconic for being one of the few. Yeah, like, it was revolutionary for being one of the few games at the time to actually have a story and a narrative, which is really
it had
interesting
cutscenes.
to look back at that. It was one of the first video games to ever have cutscenes.
Oh, that's fair.
So, like, that's
but you get what I mean, right?
We've gone from the little cutscenes to Pac-Man to, like, stuff like, God of War and 999.
Yeah, but I guess basically the point I'm trying to make is that, like, it's come so far. Like, you can include, some people might be a little bit iffy on it, but, I consider visual novels video games, right? Like, you're playing through someone's story. That is what it is, right? Yep. And, from the Bioshocks to the God of Wars and whatever, like, storytelling in video games, like, it's like people, like, I guess because people have been taking it a lot more seriously lately, like, you have some really good performances that you would find in movies through voice acting. Like, Ashley Birch is my favorite voice actress, I think, hands down, bar none, right?
She's pretty awesome.
Yeah, like, and like, it's really through video game storytelling that she's been able to thrive through that, right? And that's just with her. Like, you have Christopher Judge, who's found his acclaim through Star Trek, who has found a new kind of leash on life, I guess, as Kratos in God of War.
Oh my god, he is Kratos.
Yeah, like, and you have and you guess, like, you even have, like, megastars even in Nolan North and Troy Baker. Right? Like, they're, like, video game storytelling has become, like, such a huge thing, and there will always be enough stories to talk about it, but I guess for this episode right now, let's call it for the night. So
I sorry, just a future note, or like a note here to make is, at this point, if you don't have a story in your video game, if it's not like a score based or like an arcade thing, you're gonna get questioned for it. If you don't have a story, some people are just not interested.
Oh yeah. Like, it's how it's not only just books, movies, and TV shows that people are getting quality stories nowadays. It's through video games. And funny enough, like with the book that I'm currently writing, I'm hoping at some point to either make it a video game from the start, or at least eventually turn it into something, because how I want that video game, like, or how I'm wanting it to be, is like, I want it to pioneer a whole new age of storytelling from books to whatever, right? Like, we had done a previous episode on book adaptations from like books to movies, or like books to TV shows, and like we were railing on just how terrible it had, on how terrible a lot of adaptations have been. Not all of them, mind you, but like a lot of them. And so with video games, I think especially with like action franchises, like it seems like a perfect medium to do that.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you have plenty of time to tell a story through a video game that you wouldn't really get through a movie, especially, and even through a TV show. Like, you can have whole seasons, but if you have a team of writers that aren't passionate about it, and this is going a whole other thing, but like, if no one cares about it, then it's not going to be good either way. And I got cut off again.
Oh, did he? Oh, Dean.
Hi.
Hello.
I do it.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I guess this is really Discord's way of trying to tell me to wrap up. So, when I rejoin proper, then I guess I'll do closing remarks. But yeah, like we were saying, video games seems like a whole new avenue for storytelling, and even still, like, it's still such a new thing in my mind. Like, you really only get like huge, like, award-winning games, I think maybe within like the last 10-15 years.
Yeah.
Right? But gaming's been around since like
The 80s.
Yeah, the 80s, 90s. But
Even before that, I think.
yeah, like way before that. But I guess anyway, before, let me not tempt Discord any longer and just get to the closing. So thanks for listening, everyone. Hope you enjoyed. You can find the Ink Guild on all our social media below, both Gabe and I. And for the Soibois, what's your guys' social media?
So that's a big meme. Social media is so basically, I think I'm gonna plug 3 social medias.
All right.
We don't have an official Twitter yet, but you can follow me at twitter.com/MorganDust. I apologize if you see something NSFW. I like that kind of stuff.
All right.
And follow our.
Thank you for being honest.
Follow our artist who posts a lot of art on his Instagram, which is instagram.com/Michael Donalds. That is spelled Michael.
Shout out to Michael, by the way. I'm still thankful for him. Sorry to cut you off, but like, I'm still thankful for him for commissioning my book cover, which I hope I can use.
Yeah, and he does a lot of artwork for our channel. If something is drawn, it is literally just him. And Everest, do you want to plug your own art account?
Oh, sure.
Plug everything.
No, I mean, I got an art account where currently I just use it to draw like shitty made up Pokemon that I like to come up with. But eventually, it's going to be a hub for, stuff for Soibois, but also just my own personal projects, like the game I'm currently working on and the other projects that I'm currently working on. And that is Shad Oblivion. That is Instagram Shad Oblivion, SHAD Oblivion.
Cool.
I'll
let you guys leave links in the chat so that you guys can. Cool.
Sure.
All right.
Yeah.
So, I guess Gabe kind of knows where this is going, but I like to do a kind of fun final send off. Whether it be a discussion or like just kind of chatting about stuff. And I think, because I feel like this could be a really fun thing, well, for you guys at least, because I know nothing about I know nothing about this game, I'm going to give the 3 of you 5 minutes to discuss Nier Automata.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I hate 9S's gameplay. Boo! That's a shooter down.
All right. Okay. Wait. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready.
Ready?
Do we have 5 minutes individually, or are we just gonna?
The 3 of you have 5 minutes completely.
Okay.
All right.
Warfare.
And go.
What's your favorite area in the game, and why is it the amusement park?
The amusement park is the best fucking part of the game.
There's no argument. It's the amusement park for sure.
The amusement park's amazing.
Why is the beginning of 9S a second
mistake every time?
Guys.
I was gonna say. Oh,
Yeah, did you read chat?
Guys.
oh, Dean cut out.
Yeah, I cut out.
Check it out.
Okay, we're gonna have to start that over.
It's fine.
That's fine. I can
Oh
talk
my
about-
god. Okay,
It's all good.
all right. 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, so yeah, the amusement park's amazing.
Easily best section. Worst part is the bucket section, just because of
Bucket
how
section.
slow it is. It is easily the most.
I was
thing
gonna
ever.
say that I respect Yoko Taro for having the massive balls to make you play through half the campaign as 9S again before actually finishing the story.
But then
There's such
Playing as
controversy
9S.
around 9S. Oh my god.
Okay,
I-
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Gabe.
I was gonna say I am one of the last living 9S defenders.
I mean, no, I don't have a problem playing as 9S either. I like the hacking minigame.
I'm gonna
I
say
think it's
the
super
only
fun.
reason I really stopped with 9S and I don't like the hacking minigame is because at the time of playing Nier Automata is the controller I had at the time had a dead zone. It had a big dead zone on the top right
Oh.
Okay.
of one of on the left hand stick. So I was not able to play the hacking minigame at all.
That's okay. I can see that.
Like playing combat, that's fine enough. You just dodge and stuff, perfect counters and stuff. But
Yeah.
no, a hacking minigame, making it mandatory, or at least for like boss fights and stuff, was no, I don't like it. Poopy idea.
All right. What was everybody's go-to chip layout?
Oh shoot, I don't remember. Mine's mostly like. There was one on dodging. I'm pretty sure. I based on that.
I usually have like a lot of like health chips because I'm very stingy with my health equipment. And I just
Same.
finish up the game having a billion health things that I never use because what if I need it later?
Exactly. No, I 100% agree.
Wait, who's the dojo guy? Like the guy you could like fight?
Oh yes,
Like
I fucking
I
love
always-
that guy.
yeah, I stacked out health chips specifically for his fights, like the later on
Yeah.
fights, because they get hard.
I remember I made a terrible mistake. I entered one of his later fights very early on in the game, so I was extremely underleveled, and
Everyone makes that mistake.
I spent I think 2 hours just slowly chipping away at his health.
I think I did something like that too, actually, with one of his later fights.
Yeah, remember
Yeah,
the golden? Remember the golden bot? I did the same thing.
Yeah.
It was like one of I was gonna say I would say it was like the worst boss fight I've ever played, but it's not bad. It was just like painful, but nothing
Yeah.
compares to I was gonna say this when we were talking about Persona 3, but Nyx is like
Yep.
No,
hurt me.
Nyx
Yeah,
is easy mode. Beat him
no.
first try. You guys suck. I'm the better one.
Morgan's a hipster with Nyx. No, I agree. Nyx took me forever. It was like a week-long endeavor where like every day or every night I would try and fight Nyx. It would be like a 2-hour endeavor. I would lose, and then I'd go to school and tell my friends about how I lost to Nyx, and I'm going to try again that night.
I remember the first time that I was like so close, and then that the charm happened, and I was just like, oh,
Mario Kart?
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
my
the
God.
charm. Yeah,
oh my god.
yeah,
gonna
happens
say
to the best of us.
Easy mode. Easy fucking mode. Especially, I'm gonna say it. If you want an easy next fight, just play Portable. Portable tones it down a bit. Again, also, actually, with Persona 3, as much as it just turns into a visual novel and there's no real like cutscenes or anything like that, I still think Portable is like the best way to play that game because something we didn't discuss while I brought up Persona 3 is you can't control your party member. They do.
Yeah.
You can give them suggestions, and that's about it.
Yeah.
And it is easily one of the worst things. That's why Nyx is so
1 minute
hard.
left, guys.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All I'm gonna say
Oh
is,
god,
Portable
we
is
got way
still
off
your-
topic.
We go way off topic. What's everybody's favorite weapons in Nier? What
How about
weapon
hot
types do you
takes?
use?
Hot
Ooh,
takes?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
Morgan's
Nier
been full of
Automata
hot
takes.
takes. Morgan's been full of hot takes. I mean, I don't have any hot takes about Nier though. I like Nier.
Adam,
Yeah.
what's their names? Adam and Eve. I don't fucking.
Oh,
remember.
Adam and Eve. I
Yeah,
love
Adam and Eve are-
Adam. I hate Eve.
Yeah,
Eve
I was
is garbage.
As much as I don't like Adam, I don't like Adam and Eve that much, but I'll take Adam over Eve for sure.
Yeah, I remember Adam has this crazy. He doesn't have like the most interesting boss fight, but he
15
has
seconds.
he has one of the best songs in his boss fight, and he has one of the coolest worlds, and he like says interesting shit. And Eve is just an angry boy. I hate him so much.
Last thing, I want to know Adam and Eve's hair routine.
Of course you would. Of course you would.
I want to know Eve's tattoo artist.
All right.
All bang devil up. There you go.
All right. Thanks, guys. With that all being said, thanks for tuning in, everyone.